Learning Unplugged.
Welcome back to Learning Unplugged. My name's Lucy, this is Conrad and Nisa, and today we're going to talk about tutoring and how you become a tutor and all the stuff to do with that. So welcome. Do you want to start by introducing yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Conrad. I'm the head tutor at Greenhouse Learning. I tutor in GCSE English and Maths and Humanities, and I do general training and support for other tutors.
Hi, I'm Nisa. I'm also a tutor. I haven't been a tutor that long. I do some admin stuff as well, and I tutor, I think, year 7 to GCSEs. I do A-levels as well. So it's a bit here and there.
Here and there. all
yeah.
So how did you both kind of get into tutoring? Why did you kind of start it off?
So I worked, straight out of uni I started working as a TA in high school, and it was okay. I don't think I'm built for high school life. I think I'm a bit too fragile. And then after that I started working in primary schools, mainly with SEN kids, and I really enjoyed that, and I just thought tutoring was kind of a better way to use my skills, especially going one-to-one with SEN students as well.
Yeah, it's actually kind of similar to me as well. So I have like a history in psychology, so I've done my bachelor's. I'm currently as well doing my master's.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I kind of really do enjoy the like one-to-one aspect, and like I also worked in a SEN school for about 2 years, just with SEN children, and then I feel like one-to-one was so much better, especially because I've been to certain schools where it felt like they needed more support, especially if they've just been a bit like, you know, out of school or excluded a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like that's just where I fit in that specific category.
Yeah. Is that kind of same with the kind of SEN kind of base? Like, how did that kind of come about out of your like normal teaching experience? How did you kind of not specialise but kind of go down that route?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like both my parents work as my mum's a behaviour analyst and my dad works in learning disabilities.
Wow.
So they kind of pushed me in that direction, and I kind of knew what I was doing because of them. And then I just got a load of experience working with SEN kids, and I kind of liked it a lot. And I thought, like, especially with tutoring, you can kind of like tailor it a bit more. I thought working in a school can just sometimes be a bit like, you can't really do that much.
Yeah.
Like, you can support and you can help, but tutoring, I feel, you know, is a really good way to make it.
You are kind of confined to those 9 to 5 hours, aren't you, at school? Whereas obviously with tutoring you have kind of a more personalised kind of touch, which I definitely think is really important. How do you both kind of, in your tutoring sessions, how do you kind of tailor that approach to each individual student?
Yeah, it's just about getting to know the student, getting to know how they work. I normally, for the first 2 sessions, 3 depending on the student, just don't really do any learning and just focus on getting to know them, how they work. And then I can start to tailor my tutoring exactly to them, you know, depending on their learning styles, you know, how they want me to do it. And I just find like having that little time with just no learning, one, they kind of open up a bit more because it's not just teaching and it's quite fun. And then, I can just kind of get into it straight away after that and just be a lot more impactful than just kind of going in blindly at the start.
Yeah,
I think building rapport is really important in the first one. So you should just like play games, get to know each other, be a bit like, this is gonna be calm, chillaxed. And then I think the first ever session where we actually do some like learning, that's when I try to start off like really slow and like do a little bit of more fun. Like we play board games, but it's like surrounding the topic I want them to actually do, and then kind of see how they react to like having to sit down and sort of focus on work. And if it doesn't really work well, then I'm like, okay, next session I need to put in a lot more breaks, I need to put in a lot more rewards and like things like that. So it goes on like, okay, the more I get to know you, the more I get to know your like learning style as well. And then,
and then knowing what they like and stuff, I would try and tailor lessons to stuff that they like and enjoy.
Yeah, the first one they'll tell me something like, I'll pretend they're like sausage dogs. I'll be like, oh, I'm just gonna put it on my and then I'm like, oh man, count sausage dogs.
I think that's so cool though, that you try and like, you tailor it to their likes, because I mean in school, like nothing's personalised to you at all with this, and it's just that set curriculum. So even if you have a little sausage dog in there, like I think that's something that will like engage them kind of more than just a set of questions.
And it's like, I've got a year 9 student at the moment, and she loves to gossip about people I don't know. So I always give her 10 minutes at the end, and I'm just like, right, if you could do all this work well, you can have 10 minutes at the end.
I would love that. I think I need that tutoring session. Have a little gossip at the end. So what's your kind of favourite thing about tutoring? What do you kind of get the most out of it?
I don't know. there's a
Too
lot.
many to choose from.
There's just too many.
I think I really like, I mean, it's just on the top of my head, it's like connecting with them.
Mm.
You know how like every single student, there's like a thing that kind of connects you to them, like,
Yeah.
you know, and then you kind of touch back on that, like pretend, for example, I really like sausage dogs as well or something. I'll be like, oh, in the office we have one, and the other day like it did this and that, and then they'll be like, oh, or like, you know, just something very special that we just talk about, and it feels really like, oh, we have this very special connection, and we're gonna learn together with this, what we've built together, sort of thing.
Yeah, and when you're in tutoring person, you do it for a long time, you really become a part of that family's routine.
Yeah.
I used to have this one student, and I was there 2 hours every day, and I was like,
That's crazy.
like I used to play FIFA with her dad when we finished the sessions.
I heard about this.
They invited me and my girlfriend round for tea once,
Oh, that's so
and it was so
nice.
nice, and I loved it so much. And it's like, you know, you really become a part of their whole life.
Yeah, that's something that I do kind of think you. I mean, I personally had tutoring when I was I don't know, year 11 maths, year 10, year 11 maths, and it was just someone that just came to my house for an hour and then just left, and that was kind of it. Whereas when you kind of had that kind of personalised touch, and it's really nice to be able to like become that part of that family, become part of their like routine, as you say. I mean, especially if you're doing quite continuous kind of learning. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
So kind of what are some things on the flip side of that then that you kind of find hard about tutoring, or things that maybe little challenges, barriers that you've had to kind of overcome?
Well, it is like obviously some students that need tutoring have tutoring for a reason, whether that is severe SEN or like behavioural issues and stuff, and it's like obviously now we're well equipped to deal with that, but starting out it can be quite scary and quite demoralising a lot of the time. So I think it's getting over that initial barrier of feeling like you're not doing well, and then realising actually no, I'm doing okay.
Yeah. How do you kind of go about that kind of transition?
Well, I think it's just having feedback from people, and then it's also just like not taking anything personally. It's just like, I think whenever I had a student, and I still get that now sometimes, whenever I had a student who wasn't learning very well or didn't get much out of the lesson, I'd always think like, well, that was a bad lesson. But it's like, no, it's just that day, it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, you just need to keep trying. The only way you can improve is if you keep on going.
Yeah, over time, 100%. How would you think?
Yeah, I think it's hard to cater like a general sort of learning to everyone. So sometimes it's just finding those like individual or special, like, and I think it takes time as well. Like if I have like, for example, 9 students in a week, and then I have to kind of just think like, okay, I have to, even though they're doing the same like subject, like in the same year, I have to think, okay, no, I can't use the same approach. So it takes like time just to think about the resources a lot more.
Definitely.
And yeah, like you said, I think it does sometimes get a bit demoralizing, but I always remind myself, you know, it's not personal, like they're just having a bad day and they're kind of just lashing like out on you because you're the person who's like making them do things they don't really want to. But yeah, I'm just like, it's not me, you're just having a bad day.
Yeah, 100%. So kind of how do you plan those sessions? So like if there's any first tutors kind of watching this, and how would you kind of prepare them for their first session, like the key points that you kind of tell them?
Yeah, well, if it's a first session, well, it depends. If it's GCSE for a first session, I'll just have a chat with them, and then sometimes I'll just watch them do a paper, and I'll tell them this is going to be really, really boring, but just bear with it. And I'll watch them do a paper, not really do much input, and then just see how they write, see how they learn, and then just kind of take stuff away from that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think usually the first few, like when we do, for example, English, I'll make them do sort of like a silly writing task, like something they maybe like, or like just really silly questions where they can like have a laugh with me about it as well. But then at the same time, kind of just like seeing how they can write on their own and if they need support and stuff like that. So at the same time, I'm seeing like, you know, like grammar, punctuation, those kind of things. I'm like kind of like slowly checking, and then I see where the level is at, because I know they probably can't tell me like, oh, I'm not really good at this or that sometimes, like depends on the kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's how I kind of do like my future resources based on some like, you know, keep checking and seeing where they're at.
Yeah. What about kind of emotionally? How do you think you prepare for your first ever session? How do you kind of do that?
And I think also something that I try and do at the start of every single session is have a conversation with them completely outside of any work. You know, depending on when it is, you know, I ask them how their day is, what they've been up to, anything.
Yeah.
If we have a shared similar interest, I'll talk about that. Sometimes a bit too long. And then that, you know, it just kind of, it doesn't just ease them, it eases you into the session as well, especially if you're a first time tutor and you're nervous. Just having a conversation with the kid is just, you know, a good way of
It's just having a conversation at the end of the day, isn't it? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, especially because some of them have like I think issues with trust as well, you know, because especially when they like struggle in school and then you're kind of a school to them, and obviously they're not gonna really be like, I'm gonna be so open to you, you're a teacher who's gonna force me to do things. So yeah, the first lesson as well, I literally just bring back like games in my bag. Like board games, like literally it has nothing to do with studies, it's just like roll the dice and then it's kind of like get to know each other games, those kind of things.
Yeah, especially with those kids with behavioural issues.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you can't treat it like school, you can't treat it like work. You know, you've got to have that rapport with them before you can start doing any work.
Yeah, definitely. Building that rapport is so important.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't kind of build that, you don't build the trust as well, you just speak about, like, it will have that kind of teacher-student relationship, which is not what tutoring's about.
No.
Especially not with kind of greenhouse learning, that we've put all that kind of effort on in the personalisation and things. I think it's so important to kind of do that. So anything else that you kind of want to touch on about tutoring that you enjoy?
Yeah, I'd say one of the main things about tutoring, especially for new tutors who are trying to get into the game, is like, it's definitely not about what you know, it's about how you can teach it. So like, I started teaching a lot of subjects which I didn't really know that well, but you know, students still get a lot out of it, just depending on like how you go about, how you explain things. So just having a lot of different ways in which you can explain the information is like a really good skill set to have, rather than just knowing everything, because kids don't want that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm literally thinking that I don't think I could tutor because I don't think I have the knowledge and in the specific area. But I guess if you kind of work on it and you work on those kind of teaching what you do know, you can always build that on that, I think.
Yeah, it's like, I'm a GCSE English tutor. My first GCSE English exam, I got an E in.
See, there you go. You can always go up.
Exactly. And now I'm just like, wow, now I tutor this and I really enjoy it. And, you know, I feel like the kids get a lot out of my sessions. And then it's also good because I can like, you know, I understand where they're coming from. So
Yeah,
I don't tell them I was really bad at English, because it doesn't look good for the brand. But you know, it's just like, yeah, I can understand why you're struggling, so here's how I can help.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I think I picture it as like, you know, when you have a friend that tells you like a very complex concept but like in a really easy way, and you're like, oh, I didn't see it that way kind of thing. So it's more about like how you teach a session, or actually just about what it is.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for me, one more thing as well, I think self-care is quite important for first-time tutors out there. Like, especially if you've had like more challenging sessions where you feel a bit like, did I do well enough in that session, you know, teaching them this and that, did I handle that situation well enough? And then I don't know, I usually get myself like, okay, I can relax before my next session, have a nice coffee. Sometimes it ends up like, oh, I'm buying too much coffee. So it's like self-care, I think is important, because then you can fully be there for your students better instead of like crumbling throughout the week.
It's very hard to teach tired.
Yeah,
very hard
really.
to teach. Yeah, when you're not feeling good about.
Especially when they're tired, you're tired. Like you can't show it because then both of you just be like, oh.
Yeah, like you can definitely feel that in the session when both of you just obviously don't want to be there. It makes the session so much longer. So you know, it's making sure that you're in that good mindset to do the session.
Definitely. I mean, when I had one of my tutors, when I did my 11 plus, I think it was, so I was teeny tiny, and my mum, bless her cotton socks, she would lay out donuts, cakes, crisps, biscuits, everything just on the kitchen table. So then we'd stay awake, and my tutor's name was Candy, so it would just really fit in really well. I don't know why, I just really enjoyed it. So maybe you should make your parents do that as well.
Yeah. I remember one time there, I had 4 hours back to back, and it finished at about 8 o'clock. It was like study groups, and I was drinking coffee. And I'm not that tolerant to coffee sometimes. And by the end of the session, I was so hyper. I was like, if I'm speaking too fast, let me know. Someone was like, babe, coffee.
But that's happened to me as well. I had coffee, like I was chugging it right before I came to the session, and then she was like, you seem a bit like you've got really lots of energy today. I'm so sorry.
I'm just going to wake up into the gym. Yeah, I'm so awake. Perfect. Well, we're coming to the end of our podcast, so I'm just going to ask Nisa and Conrad their final message, top tip of what you can take away from the video.
You can go first.
I think tutoring is really flexible, but I think it's also that you have to be very flexible. Like sometimes things just don't go your way, so yeah, just work around it, adapt, and yeah, self-care is really important to be fully there for your student, I guess.
Yeah. And I think don't put too much pressure on yourself. Like, you know, understand that whatever you do, it's probably going to be beneficial. So, you know, even if you just take little steps at a time, you know, that's better than nothing. And it's just, yeah, just don't think you have to do it all at once, because realistically you can't.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure to talk to you both. And I will see you next time on the next episode of Learning Unplugged. Goodbye. Bye.
Bye.
Learning Unplugged.